Joining me now is Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, House Judiciary Committee ranking member, and Indiana Congressman Jim Banks, Republican Study Committee chair. Congressman Jordan, let's start with you. As someone who has been targeted by this committee, your reaction to Pelosi tying herself to what seems to be Liz Cheney's revenge fantasy?
Well, Laura, this is all about getting President Trump. Remember, they tried to get him before he got elected in 2016. They spent 4 years while he was in office trying to get rid of him. And now after he's left office, they're trying to make sure he doesn't run again. And they have, the New York Times piece was amazing because it said 14 former prosecutors are part of this committee. Now, if your whole focus is a legislative purpose, as it's supposed to be under our Constitution, do you really need 14 former prosecutors to figure out what you might do or might not do with the Electoral Count Act or whatever? This is all about getting President Trump, but it's also bigger than that. It's about getting his family. It's about getting his friends. It's about getting, as your monologue talked about, you and me and all the people he represented, all the people he fought for. It's really about making sure this town doesn't have someone like President Trump come back and disrupt the cozy relationship the establishment and the elite have here in Washington, D.C.
Now, Congressman Banks, Adam Kinzinger went on MSNBC to deliver a different message to the GOP. Watch.
This is that moment at which if you don't stand up, you are part of the problem. You are part of the problem. Your silence is complicity. And that's what we're dealing with right now. It is so egregious. We are in such a dangerous position.
I'm concerned for his health. Congressman Banks, your reaction?
Well, it's just more of the same from Kinzinger and Liz Cheney. You know what they say, the old saying as it goes, there's no one more zealous than a recent convert. And in this case, Kinzinger and Cheney, they've converted to the other side. It's why the RNC was absolutely right to censor Kinzinger and Liz Cheney. These two have long ago left the Republican Party. The RNC over the weekend made it official by censoring them and saying they no longer represent the values of the Republican Party because they've turned this sham investigation. They're treating it like a criminal investigation, even though they're not going after any criminals. They've issued 80 subpoenas, and very few of them have actually gone toward anyone who was involved or participated in any way in violence or a crime on January 6th. Instead, they're going after people who were lawfully participating in a permitted rally, exercising their First Amendment rights on January 6th. But these two want to go after them and go after anybody that has any ties to Donald Trump or represents anything that had to do with the agenda of the Trump presidency. And that's why they should no longer be associated with the Republican Party.
Congressman Jordan, there was this wild propaganda documentary that ran on MSNBC last night, and Jamie Raskin, Congressman Raskin from the committee, was featured prominently. Look.
The country is still just trying to absorb the emotional impact of events that brought us right up to the edge of a real coup in America. In the GOP, they're manipulating every anti-democratic lever of power there is in order to entrench minority rule against the majority. That's the struggle in the country today.
Congressman Jordan, they're trying to produce an outcome like some kind of Hollywood thriller, that this is dominating the thinking of most Americans who are trying to figure out how to pay for $4 a gallon gas.
Yes.
Does this work? I mean, they're really doing the hard sell on this.
No, of course it doesn't work. And Mr. Raskin just used the term anti-democratic. Think about this. Nancy Pelosi has closed the Capitol, allowed proxy voting, kicked Republicans off committee, won't let Jim and I serve on the select committee. First time in American history that has ever happened. They're trying to make D.C. a state, trying to end the Electoral College, trying to end the filibuster, trying to pack the United States Supreme Court, and they're trying to get rid of executive privilege. And oh, by the way, this January 6th committee altered evidence, a text message I had forwarded to the chief of staff, altered evidence and lied about it to the American people. But somehow it's Republicans and Donald Trump who are a threat to democracy. This is ridiculous. And the American people are so fed up with this. This is, a few months ago, it was moms and dads in Virginia. Then it was 12 jurors in Kenosha who spoke for the truth and due process and the facts. And now it's truckers in Canada. They are so fed up with this elite mindset that says we're all dumb and they're all smart. The Americans have had it with all this. And I think you're going to see it manifest itself in a big way come this November's election.
I actually thought Nancy Pelosi was smarter than this. both of you. I mean, she's been around a long time. She's a wily cat. I thought she was smarter than tying herself to Liz Cheney. I mean, she doesn't represent anyone. I mean, maybe a few lobbyists for, some of the defense contractors in D.C., but she doesn't represent anyone. And yet Pelosi thinks that's the way to portray an optimistic vision for the Democrats. Well, Claire McCaskill, actually, Congressman Banks gave away the store in an interview which I think was extremely revealing about what this committee is really all about. Watch this.
Now this committee has to really focus on how they communicate with the voters who are going to decide the midterms and ultimately decide 2024. It's not going to be just by subpoenaing more witnesses or just convincing everyone who's already convinced. They've got to convince some new folks of the seriousness of what happened.
Congressman, are going to convince some new folks as this should be their focus, January 6th.
That's what we call saying the quiet part out loud, right? I mean, they put this in a memo. The DCCC put this in a memo as well about this is a big part of their campaign strategy. Anything to distract the American people from how much of a failure the Biden administration has been when it comes to inflation or crime or the border crisis or drugs killing the American people. That's what this is designed to do. And the very fact that Liz Cheney is a part of a well-designed plot to prevent Republicans from winning back the majority to save this country from that radical agenda is everything that you need to know about why the RNC censored Liz Cheney over the weekend. We're right for doing so.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you. Good to see you both tonight. And now